In addition to working in unique textures that are meant to appear once in a model, we'll often see tiling textures in game development as well. A tiling texture, as the name implies, is a texture that repeats like tiles. There are many different ways to tile a texture, most of which are outside of the scope of this project. We can either use procedural techniques or manually edit the texture to be tiling. Just because a texture is repeated doesn't mean it's tiling well. That's a big distinction. In this example, I've got our floor diffuse up. We can see here this is the wood floor for the bedroom. These planks tile side to side and top and bottom, with the joints in the planks running horizontally so that there's a natural break between the half and full planks and the two full at the bottom. The planks from each side end at halfway and repeat on the other side. So ideally, when this tiles or repeats across the floor, we won't see that pattern repeat. This is a great way to economize on texture space in a game, as we can make our tiling textures have more detail but be smaller overall than a unique texture. I'll take a quick look in Unity at how this looks tiling and see if it works. Back here in Unity, I'm going to put that diffuse texture into a material and put it on a plane. I've got a plane. I'll slide it off to the side and get a new material on it just to experiment. I've called this new material wood, and I'll go in and put that albedo in. Clicking on the circle select next to albedo, and up here in the select texture box, I'll type in floor, or at least FLOO, and it'll search out everything that's got floor in the name. I'll pick floor diffuse and pull this material onto that plane. What we can see is initially it tiles once, and this is working quite well. What I'm going to do is to open up that wood shader, and I'm going to tile it 3 by 3 to test the tiling of this map. What this means is that in the UV space on that model, I am increasing the number of times that that particular texture shows. It looks pretty good. We've got a nice even tiling array of wood planks. One question that this also raises is how often is a map going to tile, and how often are we going to see it tiling? This is an idealized case where we're seeing all of that map tiling at once, and so we can definitely tell these planks are repeating. What this raises is the possibility of either camouflaging that tiling through object placement, such as the other props, or adding some variation into that tile, or varying the tiling to a greater extent, so that we see perhaps more of a pattern that repeats not quite as often. It's working fairly well. What we can see though here is I've got a good range of wood planks tiling, so I can get more detail in this texture and repeat it across a larger floor while economizing on the memory each texture takes up. I'll do one last test on it, practicing some texture optimization and management. Here in my environment textures, I'll scroll down and find that floor diffuse. What I'm going to do is put the max size for this down to 512 and click Apply. At 512, we don't see a noticeable change in the floor, but we've just gone down in memory. This texture originally defaulted to about 1.3 megabytes, fairly standard for a 1024 square image. Changing it down to 512 only uses 341.4 kilobytes, a noticeable savings. Now, this may not seem like much, but when you're economizing every little bit of a game for mobile, for example, or trying to optimize your game to meet platform requirements, every little bit counts. So make your textures big and optimize them and size them down here in Unity, crafting them twice as large and seeing where you can use tiling textures versus unique, and making sure that you're getting all of your channels helping and contributing to the overall look of your game is important.